Some of the most intelligent minds in history were never admired while they were alive. They were misunderstood, questioned, sometimes even avoided. Not because they were weak, but because they moved differently. If you've ever felt out of place in a loud world, if you've been told you're too quiet, too intense, or too distant, this message may explain more about you than you realize. Let us walk through 5 strange habits that psychology associates with high intelligence, habits that align perfectly with how disciplined, self-mastered individuals move through life. And as we move through them, remember this: intelligence without control becomes chaos, but intelligence guided by inner discipline becomes unbreakable. We walk this path together. Habit 1. You seek solitude, and it strengthens you instead of weakening you. Most people run from silence. They fill every empty moment with noise, opinions, entertainment, and faces that distract them from their own thoughts. To them, being alone feels like punishment. But for a certain kind of man, solitude is not an escape. It is a forge. If you naturally spend long periods alone, and instead of deteriorating, you grow sharper, calmer, and more self-aware, this is not a flaw. Psychology has long observed that individuals with exceptionally high cognitive capacity often require less external stimulation. Their minds are already full, already active, already working. We are taught that intelligence looks like constant discussion, debate, and social brilliance, yet history tells a different story. The deepest thinkers withdrew, not because they hated people, but because they respected the mind too much to drown it in noise. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he wrote his most powerful thoughts in isolation, reminding himself, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That line alone reveals something crucial. Solitude is not emptiness, it is clarity. A mind capable of depth must occasionally step away from the crowd, not to feel superior, but to remain intact. Psychologically, solitude allows high IQ individuals to process information at their natural pace. When surrounded by constant stimuli, the intelligent mind becomes irritated, not energized. This irritation is often misunderstood as arrogance or emotional distance. In truth, it is sensitivity, an awareness of how easily the mind can be pulled off course. We recognize this in ourselves. When we spend too much time in chaotic environments, our patience thins, our thoughts scatter, our emotional control weakens. But when we withdraw, even briefly, something powerful happens. Our inner world reorganizes itself, emotions settle, logic regains its throne. This is not avoidance. This is discipline. Stoic thinkers understood this deeply. Epictetus warned that constant association with undisciplined minds would erode one's character, stating that we inevitably absorb the habits and emotions of those around us. Modern psychology echoes this through social contagion theory, the idea that emotions, stress levels, and behaviors are transmitted through proximity. The intelligent man senses this instinctively. He does not need a study to tell him that certain environments drain him. He feels it, and instead of fighting that truth, he honors it. This is why solitude becomes a strange habit. Others see isolation. We experience restoration. But there is a deeper layer. Solitude forces confrontation. Without distraction, there is no escape from our own thoughts, fears, regrets, and unresolved emotions. Many people avoid being alone because they cannot face themselves. The intelligent, self-controlled man does the opposite. He walks directly into that silence and examines what rises. This is where fortitude is built. Seneca described this practice as voluntary discomfort, choosing situations that challenge the ego and harden the mind. Solitude does exactly that. It strips away social masks. It reveals impatience, anger, insecurity, and desire in their raw form. And instead of suppressing these emotions, we study them. We ask, why does this thought arise? Why does this memory still hold power? Why does this emotion demand control? This internal dialogue is not weakness, it is psychological strength. Research in metacognition confirms that individuals who regularly observe and analyze their own thought patterns develop superior emotional regulation and decision-making ability. In other words, the habit of solitude trains self-mastery, and self-mastery is the highest form of intelligence. This is why highly intelligent individuals often appear calm under pressure. They have already faced turmoil internally. They have rehearsed adversity in silence. So when chaos arrives externally, it feels familiar, manageable. We do not need constant reassurance from others because we have learned to regulate ourselves. We do not chase attention because we understand how easily it corrupts focus. We do not fear being misunderstood because our worth is not measured by approval. This is not arrogance, this is independence. Stoic scholars such as Pierre Hadot emphasized that philosophy was never meant to be public performance. It was an inner discipline, a daily training of perception, judgment, and desire. Solitude is the training ground where this discipline takes root. Yet this habit comes with a cost. People may label us distant, cold, hard to read. They may misinterpret our silence as disinterest or superiority. But the intelligent man accepts this misunderstanding without resentment. As Marcus Aurelius advised, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. We do not isolate ourselves out of bitterness. We withdraw to preserve clarity. And when we return to the world, we return stronger, more patient, more deliberate, less reactive. This is the difference. Loneliness weakens those who seek validation. Solitude strengthens those who seek truth. If you have noticed that your best ideas come when you are alone, if your emotional control improves when you step back from crowds, if silence feels heavy at first, but then becomes peaceful, this is not accidental. It is the mark of a mind designed for depth, not distraction. And when guided by discipline, this habit becomes a weapon, one that sharpens judgment, tames destructive emotion, and builds a resilience that no external chaos can shatter. We do not fear being alone. We use it. Habit 2. You delay emotional reactions, and that makes you unpredictably powerful. Most people live at the mercy of their first impulse. A comment triggers them, a glance offends them, a setback enrages them. Their emotions move first, and their reason follows behind, too late to stop the damage. But there is a quieter habit, one rarely noticed and almost never praised. You pause. When something provokes you, you do not react immediately. Not because you are passive, not because you are afraid, but because something inside you refuses to surrender control to the moment. This delay, this space between stimulus and response, is one of the clearest psychological indicators of both high intelligence and inner strength. Modern psychology calls this response inhibition and emotional regulation. Research consistently shows that individuals who can delay reactions tend to have higher executive functioning, stronger decision-making skills, and greater long-term success. But long before laboratories and brain scans, ancient thinkers observed the same pattern. Epictetus stated it plainly. It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. That single sentence reveals a devastating truth. Emotion does not come from the world. It comes from interpretation. And interpretation can be trained. We recognize this habit in ourselves when something unfair happens and we feel the heat rise, but we do not let it speak. We let it burn quietly while we observe it. We give ourselves time to decide whether this emotion deserves obedience. This is not suppression. This is command. Most people believe strength is about intensity, how loudly you can react, how forcefully you can assert yourself. But real strength is restraint, the ability to remain still while chaos begs you to move. Marcus Aurelius warned himself repeatedly about this, writing, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That is not moral advice, it is psychological warfare. By refusing to mirror the emotional instability of others, you force them to confront their own lack of control. This habit is unsettling to people. They expect anger and meet calm. They expect defensiveness and meet silence. They expect escalation and meet distance. And because they cannot predict you, they cannot control you. High IQ individuals naturally develop this habit because they see consequences before they act. Where others feel relief in immediate expression, we feel risk. We instinctively understand that words spoken in emotion cannot be recalled, and actions taken in impulse create chains we must later drag behind us. Seneca described anger as a brief madness, and like any madness, it removes judgment. The intelligent mind avoids this not through denial, but through awareness. When provoked, we ask internally, "Is this within my control? Will reacting improve the outcome or only feed my ego? What will this cost me tomorrow?" These questions arise automatically not because we are overthinking, but because we have trained ourselves to value long-term stability over short-term release. Psychological studies on delayed gratification, such as the famous Stanford marshmallow experiments, show that those who can resist immediate impulses tend to develop greater emotional resilience and strategic thinking later in life. But this habit extends beyond reward. It applies to anger, pride, jealousy, and fear. We delay not because we feel less, but because we feel deeply enough to be careful. This habit becomes especially powerful in conflict. While others argue to win the moment, we observe to understand the pattern. We listen not just to words, but to tone, timing, and emotional leaks. We notice insecurity disguised as aggression, fear disguised as arrogance, desperation disguised as dominance. And because we do not rush to respond, we see the truth beneath the performance. This is why emotionally reactive people often reveal more than they intend. They expose motives, weaknesses, pressure points. Meanwhile, we reveal nothing. Silence becomes a mirror. Stoic scholars like Donald Robertson have written extensively on this, emphasizing how Stoic practices align with modern cognitive behavioral therapy. The core principle is simple. Emotions are impressions, not commands. They can be questioned, reframed, and, when necessary, ignored. Over time, this habit reshapes identity. We become the person who cannot be easily rattled, the one who stays composed under disrespect, the one whose calm presence changes the temperature of a room. And this calm is not emptiness, it is readiness. There is a moment, always, that arrives after the pause, a moment when we choose to act. And when we do, it is precise, measured, final. This is why delayed reactions feel heavier when they finally come. They are not emotional explosions, they are decisions. People often mistake our silence for weakness. They believe we will tolerate anything. But what they fail to understand is that restraint is not endless, it is selective. When we act, we do so without anger, without hatred, without chaos. And that makes our actions impossible to argue with. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is that strength. If you have noticed that you rarely react immediately, if you feel emotions rise but choose to observe before expressing, if people have told you they cannot read you, cannot predict you, cannot provoke you, this is not emotional coldness, it is mastery. And mastery of the inner world is the highest intelligence a human being can possess. We are not controlled by what happens. We are defined by how we choose to respond. And that choice, made in silence, is what makes us unbreakable. And this calm is not emptiness, it is readiness. There is a moment, always, that arrives after the pause, a moment when we choose to act. And when we do, it is precise, measured, final. This is why delayed reactions feel heavier when they finally come. They are not emotional explosions, they are decisions. People often mistake our silence for weakness. They believe we will tolerate anything. But what they fail to understand is that restraint is not endless, it is selective. When we act, we do so without anger, without hatred, without chaos, and that makes our actions impossible to argue with. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is that strength. If you have noticed that you rarely react immediately, if you feel emotions rise but choose to observe before expressing, if people have told you they cannot read you, cannot predict you, cannot provoke you, this is not emotional coldness, it is mastery. And mastery of the inner world is the highest intelligence a human being can possess. We are not controlled by what happens, we are defined by how we choose to respond. And that choice, made in silence, is what makes us unbreakable. Psychologically, this trait is linked to higher cognitive complexity. High IQ individuals tend to process information internally before sharing conclusions. They need time alone not because they dislike people, but because their minds require space to integrate thought, emotion, and meaning. Crowds overwhelm not the weak, but the deep. Epictetus taught that a person should ask in every situation, "What is in my control and what is not?" Approval, popularity, and reputation fall firmly outside our control. Values, choices, and character do not. So, we invest where it counts. Standing alone trains emotional resilience. When you no longer depend on agreement to feel secure, criticism loses its power. Mockery becomes noise. Rejection becomes data, not a verdict. This is why people who master solitude are difficult to manipulate. You cannot shame someone who is not desperate for acceptance. You cannot pressure someone who is not afraid of being excluded. You cannot control someone who has already made peace with walking away. This habit becomes especially visible during moral conflict. When everyone else rushes to choose sides, we pause. When outrage spreads, we examine. When narratives form, we ask, is this true or merely popular? We are not contrarians for the sake of it. We simply refuse to outsource our thinking. Stoic researchers like Pierre Hadot emphasized that Stoicism was not a social identity, it was an inner discipline, a way of being that could withstand exile, misunderstanding, and even persecution without collapsing. That tells us something. If a philosophy survives prison cells, political disgrace, and death sentences, it is not built on applause. Over time, this habit reshapes how we move through the world. We choose fewer friends, but deeper ones. We speak less, but with more weight. We engage selectively because attention is a resource, not a reflex. And yes, there are moments when solitude hurts. We feel the absence. We feel misunderstood. We feel the quiet. But instead of running from it, we use it. In solitude, we sharpen judgment. In silence, we hear ourselves think. In distance from others, we come closer to what is real. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That retreat is not given, it is built. This habit also protects us from emotional dependency. When relationships end, we grieve, but we do not disintegrate. When approval fades, we adjust, but we do not collapse. When trends change, we observe, but we do not chase. We remain centered. This is deeply unsettling to people who need constant validation. They feel exposed around someone who does not need them to feel whole. Some admire it, some resent it, some try to break it. But it cannot be broken because it was forged alone. If you have noticed that you are comfortable walking your own path, if you would rather be authentic than accepted, if solitude strengthens you instead of weakening you, this is not social failure. It is psychological independence. And independence is the foundation of all real power. We do not stand alone because we reject the world. We stand alone because we refuse to lose ourselves in it. And that quiet refusal, that calm, unshakable self-possession, is one of the strongest indicators of a mind built to endure. Habit 4. You pause before reacting, even when emotion demands speed. Most people believe intelligence is about speed, fast answers, fast opinions, fast reactions. But one of the strangest and most powerful habits of highly intelligent individuals is the opposite. They pause. Not because they are confused, not because they are weak, but because they understand something most people never learn. The first emotional impulse is rarely the truth. Psychology refers to this as emotional regulation and delayed response, a trait strongly correlated with higher cognitive ability, long-term success, and psychological resilience. People with high IQs are more capable of creating a gap between stimulus and response, using that space to choose wisely rather than react blindly. Long before neuroscience measured it, ancient thinkers trained it. Epictetus stated it clearly. It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. That single insight separates those ruled by emotion from those who rule themselves. We recognize this habit in ourselves when something provocative happens, and instead of reacting instantly, we feel an inner restraint, a quiet voice that says, "Wait, observe, do not surrender control." Anger rises, but we do not obey it. Insults land, but we do not strike back. Disrespect appears, but we do not rush to prove anything. To the outside world, this looks like calm. Inside, it is discipline. Most people are prisoners of immediacy. They react because reacting feels relieving. They vent because restraint feels uncomfortable. They explode because silence feels like weakness. But intelligence understands something deeper. Every emotional reaction has a cost. Anger costs clarity. Impulsiveness costs reputation. Uncontrolled emotion costs leverage. We do not spend what we cannot afford. Modern psychology links this habit to a well-developed prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for impulse control, foresight, and rational evaluation. High IQ individuals show greater activity here during emotionally charged situations, allowing them to override instinct with intention. That is not accidental. It is trained, sometimes unconsciously, through hardship, reflection, and self-command. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private notes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That sentence is not philosophy, it is a weapon. We use this habit most clearly in conflict. When someone tries to provoke us, they expect a reaction. They want emotion because emotion gives them control. The moment we explode, defend, or justify ourselves emotionally, we have already lost. So we deny them that power. We listen. We breathe. We let the moment pass. and something interesting happens. The other person grows uncomfortable, because nothing unsettles manipulation more than someone who refuses to react on cue. This habit also changes how we experience pain. Where others spiral immediately, asking, "Why me?" or "How could this happen?" we delay judgment. We allow discomfort to exist without labeling it a catastrophe. Seneca advised, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." By pausing before reacting emotionally, we prevent suffering from multiplying itself. We do not deny emotion, we do not suppress it, we simply refuse to let it drive. This is critical. Low intelligence reacts, high intelligence responds. And the difference between reaction and response is freedom. Over time, this habit makes us appear unbothered even when we are deeply aware. People mistake this for emotional coldness, but it is the opposite. We feel intensely. We simply choose not to leak emotion everywhere. That choice gives us advantage. In negotiations, silence speaks louder than outrage. In relationships, restraint builds respect. In chaos, calm becomes authority. Psychological studies on delayed gratification, most famously the Stanford marshmallow experiments, show that the ability to wait, restrain, and regulate emotion predicts success more accurately than raw intelligence alone. But when emotional restraint is combined with high intelligence, it becomes formidable. We are not controlled by mood swings. We are not hijacked by offense. We are not dragged into unnecessary battles. This habit also protects us from regret. How many lives are shaped by words spoken in anger, messages sent too fast, decisions made while emotional? We avoid that fate by slowing down. We understand that emotion is information, not instruction. So we ask ourselves, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Is it proportionate? Will acting on it improve or damage my position? Only after this internal interrogation do we move. That delay, sometimes only seconds long, creates a different life trajectory. Stoic scholars like Donald Robertson emphasize that this practice is not emotional suppression, but cognitive distancing, observing emotion as an event in the mind rather than identifying with it. That distinction changes everything. When you no longer say, "I am angry," but instead, anger is present, you are no longer consumed by it. You become its observer. And observers are not controlled by what they observe. This habit grows stronger with adversity. Each time we resist an impulsive reaction, we reinforce self-command. Each time we remain composed under pressure, our mind learns that chaos does not require collapse. Eventually, this becomes our default state. People begin to notice. They say things like, "Nothing seems to shake you. You're hard to read. You stay calm no matter what." What they are seeing is not emotional emptiness. They are witnessing inner order. And inner order is rare. In a world addicted to outrage, speed, and reaction, the person who pauses has the upper hand. While others burn energy on emotion, we conserve it for action that matters. We do not win by reacting faster. We win by reacting less. If you have noticed that you naturally pause before responding, if you feel emotion rise but do not immediately obey it, if you prefer control over catharsis, this is not emotional weakness. It is intellectual and psychological dominance. Because the person who controls their reactions controls their destiny. And nothing reveals a powerful mind more clearly than the ability to remain composed when everyone else is losing themselves. Habit 5. You are comfortable being misunderstood. One of the most unsettling truths intelligent people eventually accept is this: not everyone will understand you. And that's not a flaw. In fact, One of the strangest and most telling habits of people with extremely high cognitive depth is their comfort with being misunderstood. They do not obsess over clarifying every thought. They do not chase validation. They do not exhaust themselves trying to correct every false perception others hold about them. They let it be. Psychology associates this trait with high self-concept clarity and low external validation dependency, both strongly linked to intellectual maturity and emotional resilience. Simply put, intelligent minds do not outsource their identity to the opinions of the crowd. Long before modern psychology named it, ancient thinkers practiced it. Marcus Aurelius warned himself, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others when you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility." In other words, stop bleeding energy trying to be understood by those who are not prepared to understand. We recognize this habit in ourselves when silence feels safer than explanation. When we realize that most misunderstandings are not caused by lack of clarity, but by lack of depth on the other side. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Explaining yourself to the wrong audience is a form of self-betrayal. Most people do not listen to understand. They listen to judge, compare, or reduce. Highly intelligent individuals sense this early, so instead of over-explaining, they simplify or withdraw. Not out of arrogance, out of efficiency. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are without requiring agreement. This confidence does not announce itself, it does not argue, it does not defend, it observes. Seneca wrote, "It is better to be despised for simplicity than admired for falsehood." What he was pointing to is subtle. The wise do not distort themselves to be palatable. We do not soften our values to fit conversations. We do not dilute our thoughts to avoid discomfort. We do not shrink our depth to be digestible. If misunderstanding comes as a consequence of integrity, we accept it. This habit often develops after repeated disappointment. At some point, we realize that being fully seen by everyone is impossible. Most people project their own fears, limitations, and experiences onto us. When they cannot categorize us, they mislabel us. Quiet becomes arrogant. Boundaries become cold. Depth becomes strange. Independence becomes detached. Instead of correcting them, we let them believe what they need to believe, because correcting every misunderstanding requires us to constantly perform. And intelligent people do not live as performers. Psychologically, this habit is linked to internal locus of control, the belief that your worth, direction, and identity come from within, rather than external approval. Research consistently shows that individuals with this trait experience less anxiety, higher resilience, and greater long-term satisfaction. But this habit is not passive. It is deeply disciplined. The instinct to explain ourselves is emotional. It comes from fear of rejection, fear of isolation, fear of being misjudged. Resisting that instinct requires self-mastery. Epictetus put it sharply, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Not because you are foolish, but because truth does not require applause. We begin to understand that misunderstanding is often the price of depth. Shallow people are easily understood. Predictable people are easily categorized. Those who move differently confuse observers, and confusion often breeds judgment. But here is the paradox. The more comfortable we become with being misunderstood, the more magnetic we appear. Because we are no longer negotiating our identity. We speak when necessary. We act when it matters. We remain silent when explanation would be wasted. This habit also transforms how we handle criticism. We no longer feel compelled to respond to every accusation. We evaluate. Is this feedback from someone who understands me? Is it constructive? Is it aligned with reality? If not, we let it pass. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. But he also understood that not every opinion deserves attention. Highly intelligent people distinguish between signal and noise, and most misunderstandings are noise. This habit creates emotional insulation. When you no longer depend on being understood, you become harder to manipulate. Guilt loses its grip. Shame weakens. Social pressure fades. You begin to move according to principle, not perception. And that terrifies people who rely on approval. They will test you. They will provoke explanations. They will bait you into defending yourself. You refuse. Not because you are hiding, but because you are grounded. Over time, this habit reshapes your relationships. Fewer people get close, but those who do see you clearly. Conversations become deeper. Connections become rarer but stronger. You stop explaining your soul to those who only want entertainment. Stoic scholars like Pierre Hadot emphasized that philosophy was not about public performance, but inner alignment, living in harmony with reason rather than reputation. We adopt this silently. We stop needing to be liked. We stop fearing being misjudged. We stop shrinking to be understood. And something unexpected happens. The right people find us. Those capable of depth recognize depth. Those capable of silence respect silence. Those capable of thought understand without excessive explanation. Everyone else fades into background noise. This habit also protects our energy. Every explanation costs something. Every defense drains focus. Every attempt to control perception weakens presence. So, we conserve. We choose our words carefully, or not at all. This is not emotional detachment. It is emotional sovereignty. If you have noticed that you no longer feel the urge to explain yourself to everyone, if you let misunderstandings exist without panic, if you value inner alignment more than external approval, this is not social weakness, it is psychological strength. Because the person who does not need to be understood by everyone is free to become who they truly are. And freedom of identity is one of the clearest markers of a powerful, intelligent mind. If this message resonated with you, don't let it end here. This channel isn't about noise, trends, or empty motivation. It's about sharpening the mind, strengthening the spirit, and walking through life with discipline and clarity, even when the world doesn't understand you. If you're ready to keep building that inner strength, subscribe and stay with us. New videos are coming that challenge weakness, expose illusions, and remind us who we're meant to become. And before you go, ask yourself one question. Are you living to be understood or living to be aligned? Choose wisely. We'll see you in the next one.